You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Folks, this year the big game is not just for football fans. It's time to go all in on food. Tums and DraftKings have teamed up to create a free-to-play pool so you can get in on the action and keep on snacking. There's a share of $10,000 up for grabs. To take home the cheddar, just make the right picks about America's game day grub. Play free in the Tums Prop Bites pool on DraftKings to score big without the burn. Learn more at TumsPropBites.com. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. DraftKings official flowers for Valentine's.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
We have talked a lot over the years here about Saturday Night Live. Mike Schur and Adam McKay were both writers in their early 20s at Saturday Night Live. It has been a comedic institution that has birthed a lot of comedians, and the whole landscape has changed. And Joe Rogan is birthing entire economies that are really, really lucrative for an assortment of his friends in a audio and video space that is really changing the business. Shane Gillis is the best of these comedians that Rogan has birthed. He might not yet be the most successful because Tom Segura is looking down on his fans and Bert Kreischer is selling out giant places, but he is somebody who has gotten the attention of the internet, and everything he does, 1 million people view it. He is the hottest comedian since Bo Burnham, who sort of dominated the landscape during the pandemic. Shane Gillis, everyone's taking notice of what this guy is doing. And now he's hosting Saturday Night Live later this month after his career blossomed because he was let go from Saturday Night Live before ever doing anything. He was hired as a cast member and then was quote unquote canceled. And that's not a real thing. The comedians who are quote unquote canceled are having thriving branding businesses off of being canceled. And so now the show that fired him for some slurs that were in his podcast past is bringing him back as host and needs him more than he needs them, which is stunning to watch. And he's an interesting comedian because this is the line that he walks on. Not unlike Chappelle walked on the line where, hey, I'm not making fun of black people. I'm making fun of the way that white people view black people. Bud Light has signed up Shane Gillis thinking he's a counter to Dylan Mulvaney. Bud Light's brand has been damaged by just having an Instagram influencer who is trans around their product. It wasn't even commercials. And now Bud Light is getting Shane Gillis, and conservatives are celebrating that they got Shane Gillis without realizing that Shane Gillis is often making fun of conservatives. He's not one of you. And he's walking a space that no other comedian I see is walking.
I have a particular investment in the arc of Shane Gillis because what he got punished for by SNL, which is to say the reason they didn't hire him was because a part of his podcast from many moons ago, he was doing like truly like extreme caricatures of Asian people. And that was the thing. And when you saw it, when I saw it at first, absent any of the surrounding information about who this guy was or what else he was doing or what is this even, it was like, oh, this is textbook horrifying. This is textbook lazy. This is something that you would not get away with except for a parody of an Asian person. And so I was very out on Shane Gillis as a guy who I ever wanted to see again. Personally, Shane Gillis is so funny that I have had to admit that he's actually just super talented.
He won you back over.
Because he's actually good at comedy.
Funny, man.
And so part of me, like part of the racial politics of this, of course, is like, do we all have to be union reps when it comes to like, oh, this person has insulted my people? And then you have to do the also more, I think, profound investigation into what was he really trying to do, which gets into the realm of another topic that's fascinating, which is to say, impressions. Who can do an impression? And how do we discern motive behind the impression? So for me, over time, I realized, okay, Shane Gillis actually isn't what that one clip portrayed him to be. Mm-hmm. And he's also super funny.
Oh, but also that was when he was amateur and the character has learned and now developed. You know, Andrew Dice Clay a million years ago says he was playing a character and it was misogynistic and homophobic and it was a terrible character, but he always said, but this is a character. This is the evolution of that is smarter because he's still doing stuff that's objectionable, okay? He uses gay in a way that feels pejorative, but he's very much in character with what it is that he's doing. He is the everyman trying to appeal to the everyman while also, what are you laughing about, Amin?
He called the movie Hidden Figures Medea Goes to the Moon.
God damn.
I laughed so goddamn hard. Well, he said his father calls that.
So you're laughing at the private show that's happening in your head here. That you're doing your own show in front of a microphone, thinking things before saying them, and laughing to yourself.
I found that helpful. I mean,
when he said he's made these jokes that are objectionable, that's the first thing that popped in my head, and so I laughed.
He's walking the line, though. To me, one of the more fascinating things happening here with the business of comedy is the podcast business largely sucks. It really does. But at the top end of it, these comedians are eating like these.
Well, yes, the alleged cancellation of Shane Gillis, which resulted, by the way, down the line, the domino effect in the cancellation of Bud Light, and now the uncancellation using Shane Gillis. No question, it was good for him.
And Rogan.
But it was good for him, right? So like, there are a couple of. This is one of those stories where many things are true at the same time. It really is.
Cancellation only exists if you operate in the mainstream. If I want a job on SNL, the super highway to success for comedians, then yes, I can be canceled.
But this is a new lane. I mean, they're popular. They're popular at least in part. The reason they're making so much money is at least in part. It's not a small part. So many people are saying, "Oh, wait, I'm listening to something that's actually free. That these guys don't have consequences. This is a dirtier talk than I'm going to get anywhere in the mainstream. That's sort of contaminated by all that wokeness that both sides complain about."
So decades ago, Lenny Bruce got arrested for having
George Carlin too.
Immoral, the morality.
The words you can't say.
Yeah, the words you can't say. And even the content. Lenny Bruce would do stuff that wasn't necessarily using F-bombs or whatever, but it was like, this is explicit content. Cops would grab him and take him off stage and arrest him. And you know what that did for Lenny Bruce? Anytime Lenny Bruce is playing somewhere, people were like, "Ah, shit, I got to see this."
They are now making more, Pablo.
It's like you know, the weirdest comp I can make. Remember when The Passion of the Christ came out and everybody was like, "This is an awful da da da," and that movie did numbers because of the uproar.
They shouldn't be complaining about cancel culture. They should be celebrating it. It is profitable for the best of them. It's a gold mine.
But it reminds me of the ways in which all of us, and I was thinking about this with the Grammys, all of us still want the mainstream recognition. Shane Gillis is hosting SNL. I'm sure on some level to his fans, it's like, he's going to stick it to him like Norm Macdonald did after he got fired from SNL. They got invited to host. Part of me also thinks this is actually a valuable thing personally to that guy in the way that you want to win the award, you want to be canceled to make the money, but you also want to be approved of by the people who still, in your mind, matter.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. Folks, imagine a person who values their relationship with someone deeply. They might have encountered challenges in communication, understanding, or differing perspectives over time. A common misconception about relationships is that they have to be easy to be right. But sometimes the best ones happen when both people put in the work to make them great. Therapy can be the place to work through the challenges you face in all your relationships, whether it's with friends, work, or your significant other, or just anyone in your life. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with licensed therapists and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. It's important to note that every relationship is unique and the strategies employed may vary based on the individuals involved. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DiGiorno. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
I have a content conundrum here because because I've got Pablo and Amin in studio. Pablo, Tori finds out, a very popular podcast, Oddball, another very popular podcast. It's part of the Batard and Friends network. Both Amin and Pablo love the Shane Gillis comedy subject matter. But I have a photo of Frank Martin that I have to show the people. The Cuban Frank Martin from Miami. He's at UMass now. He's at
How's
the
he doing? Oh my Lord!
No
way.
That's Lex Luthor.
No, it's
right?
Kingpin. Shout out to Vincent D'Onofrio.
More Kingpin than Lex Luthor?
Yeah,
Oh no, I
because
see
he's
the
more
bottom
boxy.
half now. The bottom half now makes this Kingpin. Yeah.
It's a great look for Frank Martin, but it's villainous.
A little
is it
David
not?
Byrne as well.
David Byrne from the Talking Heads?
Yeah.
David Byrne. Wow.
Yeah.
David
He
Byrne's
showed
not
his
that thick.
No,
That's-
dude.
that's-
Oh, you are showing your ass right now, Dan Lebitard. Stop
Video
making
team
sense.
summon David Byrne in the giant suit.
First shout out to Wilson Fisk.
You have
AKA the
David
Kingpin.
Byrne.
How do you not
being
get that
That
reference?
physically
They were
thick?
hugely influential. They had Johnny Marr playing.
I know, but in appearance, we're talking about appearance. Frank
Yeah,
Martin's-
famously, David Byrne wore an oversized suit.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the great, as Bomani Jones called it, the greatest concert film of all time. Shame on you.
No, but you.
I know we're dated, and sometimes we don't. Con Air, we
What
have
are
to
we
explain
talking
things to
about?
the audience. How that one flew over your head?
No, it's not that it
Thank
flew
you,
over
Mike.
my head. It's that he looks like he's wearing his daddy's clothes. Where Frank Martin, that fits. That's
I
not
got-
oversized on Frank Martin.
I put Frank Martin in that suit on the movie poster for Stop Making Sense, and I got like 7 likes. Like no one got it.
Oh,
So I think Dan's
missed it,
speaking for
Mike.
the-
I'm
the
sorry. I'm
nation.
gonna like that now.
I mean,
I'm gonna
you
go
guys
like
are
that.
yelling at me, and the point I'm making stands. Look at David Byrne in terms of physically how he looks inside of what it is Frank Martin's wearing. Frank Martin fills
look the
that
same.
out. No,
You're
they
saying
don't-
David Byrne is not filling that out right now? Is that
No,
what you're saying?
that is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I don't
That
know,
is
Dan.
what I am saying.
I don't know, Dan.
It looks 3 sizes too big. Triple the size it should be on David Byrne. It looks the
going for?
correct size.
I just retweeted Mike. Sorry, Mike. I missed
Thanks.
that one.
Great.
Great
My first
minds.
retweet.
Great minds.
Engagement.
It looks like it should be playing goalie. It looks like goalie. Right?
Well said. Pablo was.
I have a cigarette in my mouth, Dan.
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef.
Behind.
Pablo was asking me during the break if I have ever found something so funny that it reaches beyond wherever it is that I get offended and still support that person. And I'm like, yes, when Ozzie Guillen was the manager of the Marlins.
Wait, so why? So the context is that Shane Gillis said many textbook Asian racism caricature things, and I was like, that guy is so funny that I need to admit this and actually find a way to enjoy this for my own sanity. And Ozzie Guillen was that for you?
The reason Ozzie Guillen is because before he started a season of Great Expectations, he came into town, Miami, and said that he liked Fidel Castro. And so it's our Hitler.
He who shall not be named.
So, yeah, Cubans were offended, and I'm like, but he's funny. But I like him as my manager because he says stuff. Like, I don't like that, but... Yeah, you know, it's offensive. It's obviously offensive. It's the worst.
You were willing to give him a second chance.
Put it to the rug.
It's the worst thing he could have. I mean, if you tell
What
me
a bold choice for him to make.
in Time Magazine, and he said he didn't agree with everything, but he liked some things that, Tony,
Because-
Both sides that one.
The heart of it
Kinda one
was
side
like,
on that one.
for him to operate at the level that he is, despite everybody hating on him. I like that about him. Was essentially his point.
I just wanted in a Marlins uniform.
And you peel back the curtain on his politics.
All right, Jeremy, I mean, what were you whispering to each other and giggling
no,
about?
no,
oh,
no.
okay.
The sideshow
okay.
between
No,
Amin
all right, both
and the
of you
container.
Out. Both of you
Hey,
out. There.
oh.
Like,
I
honest
was
to God.
workshopping
Like,
something
be
and
funny
it
at the
just didn't-
microphone or get the hell out of
Started
here.
this segment
Well, I
saying
didn't
he's
wanna
got
talk
to
about
balance
Hitler
a
and
lot
Castro.
of content decisions.
Just
I'm
go.
trying to find
Go.
out what they are.
Just
I'm
get out
hoping
of
to
here.
God one of them is a Knicks song.
Get out of here. Go ahead and play the Knicks song while Amin sits in the penalty box. I'm tired of us paying Amin for content that's best off air.
Well, no, you don't want him just getting the Ray Allen neon green light. Some of that
Weren't
stuff
we
needs
just
to go
talking
through a
about?
protocol.
Weren't we just talking about free spaces in comedy? The Amin show that's dirty, that gets Amin in real trouble, is the one people would actually want to hear.
It's no, not the people here.
The fact that Amin still has discretion is kind of stunning.
Yeah, I'm happy about it because he's been rewarded for his general approach. Taylor made a song about the New York Knicks. I guess there's something about Pablo's appearances on this show that inspired this side of Taylor because he's a big Knicks fan and he's also a huge Tar Heel. And I've been privy to the Skip and Vip show. I've been really enjoying that.
John Skipper and Taylor have been talking North Carolina basketball more in the last 15 minutes in that room than we have in 20 years doing this.
So here is Taylor's latest Knicks song.
Pride and sincerity that I present this recording as a living testament and recollection of history in the making during our generation.
Allow me to reintroduce ourselves. We are the Knicks. Oh. And we got OG in a trade from the North and an OB. Bully Ball, Rough and Tough, Charles Oakley, CEOs of the NYC. Knicks, right from the tip, Jalen was on fire. Handles, got him spinning like clothes in the dryer. Isaiah Hartenstein learned to pronounce that name. Got the whitest Dante in the game, making it rain. That's right, Knicks. Oh. At MSG, Randall will take you in the paint. No one could do it better. That's Precious, he's our rim protector. My homie Tibbs told me, dude, finish your breakfast. So that's what I'm gonna do, put on orange and blue with the Timbs. Call the fan and talk reckless. Let me tell you dudes what I do to protect this. Sitting courtside like movie directors. This ain't a movie, dog.
The foreign player, Dante, I can't pronounce his last name.
I don't think he's a foreign player either.
I can't pronounce
Dante DiVincenzo?
I was going to say, I've never been more embarrassed. And then I heard the last couple of sentences. That was terrible.
Yeah, ad-libs in the back and the hype and stuff up can't be the same volume
I feel
as
like
your narrator.
Taylor also became a couple of slightly different characters who are mostly the same, but slightly different enough to be conspicuous.
Also, does he know that we have a studio with microphones that we can record in?
Yeah, did he do that on voice notes?
How did that get aired?
Because it's bad is a new good?
I want to put Taylor on the therapy couch.
Whoa, more Taylor.
Yes, we're
After
going
that,
to put Taylor on the therapy couch right now. Well,
you said that you had to balance a lot of content decisions.
I do.
May I recommend not doing that?
I do. You cannot.
Can we call him Ronny Chieng?
You can.
By the way, thanks for that one.
Yo, Dan, what were you doing?
Ronnie was texting me before that aired, or at least before I saw it, and I was like, oh, something's gone. Something's gone horribly.
What did he say?
Wrong.
What did he say to you before you had seen the
I don't think it was anything that he wouldn't or didn't say on air.
I talked to him.
What was his vibe?
I don't want to speak for Ronnie because Dan has talked to Ronnie. Dan can characterize Ronnie's feelings. I think when Ronnie pointed out on the show, why have one bad interview when you can have two simultaneously? I was like, okay.
A great line. A great line.
There's nothing better that I can summarize.
And all I apologized to him for, and he was wonderful in accepting this as an apology. I'm like,
just sold out just sold out Radio City, by the way.
Nice.
A little plug there, Dan.
No?
It's his boy.
Yeah.
I'm trying. This is my friend that you have torched a potential bridge to, and so I'm trying to point out that
he's trying to show the value of the show.
Yes, that's right. Respect.
I simply apologized to him, and he seemed to understand as someone who works in this medium. I was also trying to incorporate somebody who was going 100 miles an hour on a speedboat. My judgment may have been fucking impaired by the fact that we're throwing Taylor at a lot of shit in a way that suggests bad judgment.
Excuses.
Which is why he's not going on that couch.
He should be on the therapy couch.
He's not mobilizing.
I like how Dan learns nothing.
He just articulated in great detail why getting a little bit of Taylor and going for more Taylor hasn't worked out.
That is correct. I will take the consequences of believing in the little guy.
What does he have to be on the therapy couch for?
Yeah, you keep giving him a microphone.
Stop.
The reason I keep
He's ecstatic.
The reason I keep giving him a microphone is because I want to show how low Meadowlark's standards actually are at the bottom rung of our business. We'll allow anyone near a microphone.
Stugotz's name is on the show already.
But we need to get younger and dumber.
Taylor?
Quote, I just did Dan Le Batard because I was a fan, and it was very dumb. End quote.
I mean,
well,
I don't.
okay.
I know there was a 100-mile-an-hour speedboat that was also involved in the interview. We were throwing it out to video at sea.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I mean, I'm down for dumb, but they had someone on a speedboat they had to keep cutting to.
That's funny.
I mean, I thought it was funny. And I needed to apologize to him.
I trust Dan Le Batard's sense of humor over Ronny Chieng.
Oh, come on.
That was funny, Dan.
Okay, well, you trusted Dan Le Batard's sense of humor with your career more than you have Ronny Chieng's.
And I've been laughing to the bank ever
Armando
since.
Baycott, a double-double. RJ Davis hasn't looked better right now. Such a great player. Such a big win against the Duke Blue Devils.
Oh, no, we're not getting Carolina talk.
That's what he talks about in therapy?
We're cool with Knicks and Tar Heel propaganda on here, but not Heat
No,
propaganda?
we're not for Carolina to win the ACC this year. 2-game lead. The lead just keeps extending in the conference. Looking like one of the best teams in all
That's what's been out there with John Skipper. John Skipper's been dying for somebody to talk North Carolina about. He wanders the halls wanting to talk to somebody about North Carolina, and nobody wants to talk to him about it. North Carolina just beat Duke, running around doing too small on all of Duke's players, and we're not talking about it at all.
Taylor is. A lot. He's still going. Look at him.
Not what I wanted
Mac
from
Ryan from Notre Dame. Harrison Ingram fits like a glove on this team right now. The way he plays, this team is just coming together. Elliot Cadeau
he doesn't
at the
know how
point
to
guard
do
position.
therapy.
He's a
Get
true
him-
freshman.
Get out of
He's
here.
getting better and
That's
better
not
as
how
the
you
year
do
goes
therapy.
on.
You know, that's how
This team is
Stugotz
just-
does
this team
therapy.
is
Poor decision, you're saying, to have him on the mic?
I want to get to the recent developments in the next segment with Vince McMahon because what's going on, what's escalated there is finally consequences coming to one of these people, power-hungry egomaniacs who have so much money that they can always avoid consequences. It seems fairly obvious that some it looks like we're headed toward criminal issues for Vince McMahon as feds raided his house over the summer, and now we learn how it is and why it is he cashed out trying to flee before he loses his freedom. I'll get to that next.
Yeah, let's ask Taylor about that.
Starting is everything when it comes to fitness. Peloton helps you start no matter what level you're at. Wherever you're starting, there's thousands of classes to get you moving. Whether that's beginners or advanced rides, feel-good live DJ rides, or artist-themed rides, they've got something for you. Peloton bike instructors keep you motivated from day one. They'll show you the basics, help take the guesswork out of your workout, and encourage you to build from there. And now with Peloton Entertainment, you can keep moving and watch your favorite TV shows and live sports as you ride. Perfect for those days when you don't want to miss a thing. And if you don't have a bike, take a dance class, take a core class, take Pilates, take a stretching class, start a program with Andy, do a core program with Emma. You can do it all at Peloton. You can get a Peloton row, and you're not even going to get wet because it's inside your own house without water. How'd they do it? I don't know. Wherever you're starting, get moving with a Peloton bike or Bike Plus rental at onepeloton.com/bike rentals. Terms apply.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is brought to you by Bayer Aspirin, the official sponsor of fans' hearts.
I do think it's the very worst thing you can say when starting your Marlins manager career. No, it's the worst.
It's not great. It's not great.
But it couldn't have said a lot worse. That so few people speak English in that area where their stadium is. They were trying to build the Hispanic market down here. Like they were trying to get Cubans to baseball games. They go to baseball games. Well, they go to Latin baseball games here. It's the worst thing you could say.
Dan, my grandfather was still alive at that point when we had got Ozzie Guillen. I remember listening to Radio Bambi, wall-to-wall coverage of how Ozzie Guillen, they had to fire him.
That's correct.
Doesn't matter if he's never coached a game.
That is correct.
Doesn't matter. Wall-to-wall, midnight to the next day.
Tony, that's
fire him.
That is pre-Rush Limbaugh. That's when Spanish radio had no governance and none. There was nobody governing that, and he did the very worst thing that he could say.
Armando Perez Roda was not happy, I'll tell you that much right now. Neither was Lourdes from Kendall. She was very upset.
Mike, the Vince McMahon developments, I've been surprised for a long time that this guy has skated over what everyone knows is a bullying, megalomaniac, crazed person who's been running wrestling for 40 years. I remember when Vince McMahon was just a sideline reporter in wrestling. He was one of the interviewers when it was coming to cable television for the first time. I remember discovering Vince McMahon.
That's how he started, as a sideline?
Well, he was owning the company at the time, but that's how he was presented. And Dan, being a 37-year-old man, bought it.
At the time, I was a teenager, and this was my introduction, I'm not even kidding you guys, to cable television. Like this and the Atlanta Braves were what I was watching outside of the few channels, and it was better wrestling on television than the matches I got on Saturday morning, which were all shit. It was all garbage. This was something that was well-produced and highly well-produced.
I think people in our audience are familiar with Vince McMahon, his rise, and the fact that he became a billionaire, and all the controversy that followed him because he resigned from a post that he ended up going back to, thinking that he was uncancelable. And this was, at the time, had been known to have signed plenty of NDAs, plenty of accusers out there. This most recent scandal with Ms. Grant as the plaintiff does seem to have undone his legacy. He has resigned from a position that he didn't have to resign. He could have made it a nightmare for TKO and Endeavor, but they don't lose these things. Or Emmanuel, if he wants you gone, you usually get gone. But there were a lot of interesting developments, and I've seen the popular social media take that whatever booking decisions they've made with The Rock and Cody have knocked this out of the headlines. I haven't seen a lack of Vince McMahon headlines. I've seen Rock Cody headlines alongside Vince headlines, because this story can really alter the legacy of not just Vince, but that entire company. And I'll explain why. More and more people are going to get dragged into this. There were a lot of people that weren't named in that document that you can start putting together some circumstantial evidence of the times that they've resigned, and you could see that the company line of "we found out about this in real time" doesn't really hold water. Because John Laurinaitis, who was named in that lawsuit, was fired last summer. TKO, being a publicly traded company, disclosed a few months ago that Vince McMahon's home was raided by federal agents. Now, is that SEC or is that the FBI? Well, the Wall Street Journal reports that 4 women have been talking to federal agents. And now, in that Wall Street Journal story, comes a detail that because Vince McMahon didn't follow proper company protocol and did not actually go through his legal department for the company, that these NDA agreements may be null and void. And Ms. Grant's representation has already said her law office has been inundated by victims coming over wanting to share their story. John Laurinaitis is a key figure in all of this because he was one of Vince's guys.
He's their chief talent scout,
right? He was their head of talent relations. Laurinaitis is a name that wrestling fans know. Brothers with Road Warrior Animal, I believe, married to the mother of the Bella twins presently, as this is all going on, and she has a health scare. So Laurinaitis, who was always attached at the hip of Vince McMahon, has seemingly flipped on Vince McMahon. While he has publicly denied allegations, the pivot from his representation was, like the plaintiff, Mr. Laurinaitis is also a victim in this. A lot of the things about having to cower to power, having felt forced and coerced into these sexual relations because his boss was instilling that his job kind of went with these responsibilities. He's playing the victim card in this lawsuit, which means he is going to flip. And you have all these people flipping on Vince McMahon, you're going to see how deep this goes. The fact that it hasn't already settled. Remember how quickly the Diddy thing settled. Once we got those details, almost immediately. The fact that it hasn't yet spells a really bad recipe for the WWE, and I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now with what we know.
Explain this part to me, okay? Because this is the person who built wrestling into the monster streaming thing it is now that you just saw. What did he get? Was he sold 30% of his stake and cashed in like $800 million because of how valuable it's going to be to have this entity of his on Mondays on Netflix when the streaming
$5 billion over 10 years with Netflix.
Okay, so he got some of his money. You do realize that where we're headed, Mike, when you say that this is bad for WWE, there needs to be a scapegoat, and I'm surprised that the Flames are going to come and grab him. But the sport has already cashed in above him by running him off of some of the creative, and they're going to turn him into the guy while cashing all of the money. You explain to me how this is going to affect what Nick Khan and Netflix and these people are already doing because they've cashed in on the other side of the burning building.
Well, we have to acknowledge that they probably have a lot more information on what was going on with Vince behind the scenes and whether or not they can navigate this if this doesn't settle and we actually go through the process. A lot of people that present as clean right now might not be, because this was a tyrant ahead of this organization that ruled by fear. And now that the feds are kicking around and you're actually looking at federal trafficking, it's going to be disastrous for this company, and I'm not sure Ari Emanuel, Nick Khan exactly knew what they were getting into. And it's actually probably resulted in this creative pivot that they're making right now, because it is convenient to have other headlines associated with it that aren't this Vince McMahon thing.
The timeline of everything coming out, the Netflix deal, the respectability of this big business becoming Netflix's closest thing to live sports, simultaneously unfolding with these texts, which are like beyond the genuinely awful nature of them, are just sloppily and very conspicuously and clearly recorded. Like, that's the other thing about this story, Mike.
And within those texts, you know that this web extends to several dozens.
Other bits of documentary evidence that I presume are out there, if this is just part of what we're seeing above the sea level of it.
He's been accused of a lot of stuff for a long time.
Yeah, if you've watched Vice's Dark Side of the Ring, he's woven so deeply within everything shady with that.
But even though people understand that this is a dirty business, I don't think they have any idea how dirty. They're about to see the underbelly of this thing.
You can revisit all the other previous scandals that he's been associated with. What happened with the Jimmy Snuka possible cold case that he ended up dying before he was found guilty of? Who was paid off there? And you look at previous accusations that also signed NDAs that are now coming to light. Really serious allegations against him.
We're not talking about garden variety, misconduct. We're talking about some real awful things through the years that he's been accused of. What changed this time? Why has he not been Teflon this time?
Well, the power dynamic shifted, and he has bosses, and he's now swimming with bigger fish. And even though he was a majority share, and if you look at the numbers, he didn't really have to resign, but he did, because Ari Emanuel is this credible power broker there. And right now he is trying to scrub this company clean. And what I am suggesting is you have no idea how high these flames are going to reach.
I didn't think they'd climb this high, and I would tell the public here, I would warn you that what happened to Bill Cosby through Hannibal Buress took a long time. It didn't happen the first time Hannibal Buress did that. And then Bill Cosby is a criminal and is in jail, and the whole thing has come down. These things take time, but the flames have now climbed to a place where Vince McMahon is in danger of losing his freedom. Never mind, it looks like he may have cashed in on wealth, but if this goes criminal, and now you have all sorts of women coming forward, what you run the risk of is Vince McMahon like dying in jail.
There is an interesting counterpoint, though, when it comes to comparing Vince McMahon and Bill Cosby, which is that Bill Cosby presented as America's dad, Mr. Clean Cut. I feel like a lot of it, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of Vince McMahon, his ability to get away with stuff was because he was also this character. And so the expectation for Vince was never that he's America's dad, he's Mr. Clean Cut. It's that, that guy's up to some stuff.
Yeah, but R. Kelly, it was the same. It happened slowly with this stuff.
I think it's different. R. Kelly in this is different because what Pablo was saying is Vince played a heel on TV. Like an actual, I'm the bad guy, the evil businessman.
And so what does it take for the bosses to be like, we can't play into that advantage when it comes to laundering Vince McMahon's character?
I think we're about to find out. I think crossed that tipping point with, even though he's not named in the lawsuit, you can see that there's a pretty concerted effort now on going to scrub Brock Lesnar, as he was not called out by name, but everyone's pieced together that he was the superstar in question. This goes to, you can start looking at resignations that have happened recently in new light. This goes all the way up to the top, because the top is the central figure in all of this, and everybody, because of the power dynamic, had to kind of look past stuff, you would assume. And if this thing actually goes to trial, which it appears at this point it is going to change forever how you look at a place that you never even really gave much credence to anyways, when we come from a moral high ground. It is going to shock everyone.
Just got to rub some of The Rock on it, Mike. Don't worry.
Well, that's a playbook.